Hi, I'm Scaly Mom here at Scaly Adventures. Tanya Curran, the Director of Education. Here you're going to see video clips, behind the scenes footage, and extra footage we just couldn't fit into the episode. It was so good because the experts we film with are wonderful. They're passionate, and we get on the scene, we film as much as we can during the time that we have. But we can't fit it all into a half-hour episode. It goes by just like that. So what we want to do here is show you footage that's educational for you to see and check out that's never been seen before on TV. So here it is.
All right. Now our next question is, what was the hardest episode to film?
Wow. Well, that goes out to you guys because every episode was fun for me. So.
It was. That's because you didn't have the pressure of the cameras,
No,
though,
I
a lot of
didn't.
times to get. And
No.
I think because of that, Worley's Cave was...
Worley's Cave was probably the
Right.
worst because going underground with the $4,000 to $5,000 camera and literally walking on peanut butter mud.
Yes, so sticky.
Oh, and literally when I walked out, I thought, oh, okay, I'm protecting this thing pretty good. But when I got out, there was so much mud in the camera, I
Yes.
was picking it out with a toothpick for 2 days.
Yes. At
That
some
was
points, you
bad.
were carrying it in your mouth to try to climb up because it was so treacherous.
Yeah, it was.
It was a super fun adventure, but it was probably the hardest.
Yes, it
no
was.
question.
Yeah,
No question.
but
Not
Pierce
to
is
mention
right.
it was pitch black in there.
I know,
Yeah.
so dark, but Pierce is right. He had fun on every
did.
single one, no matter what we do.
But I go back tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this one goes out from Sarah. I want my own TV show one day. What are the challenges in filming your own TV show?
Wow. Well, without question, the hardest thing is making sure that the footage comes out right.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
You gotta. A lot of times before we even bother to start shooting, I have to check microphones, check
Yeah.
simple little things like batteries. There's little things like lighting setups and things like that. And sometimes you get a great shot that you weren't expecting, and then sometimes you miss a great shot you were really hoping for.
Right.
That's
I think it
the
takes,
challenge.
a lot of planning, a lot of intentional work, but you have to be so flexible in all of that. We have had to change things on the fly because of weather.
Yeah.
We've set up for
Yes.
things that starts to rain, or it's terrible windy outside, or a
Yes.
microphone goes down, like at the Knoxville Zoo we were filming, and all of a sudden the audio went out.
Yeah.
In fact, we've got a great scene where Pierce was down with that Aldabra tortoise.
Yes.
And he did this whole long thing. Well, the tortoise did step on his foot, which
Oh,
was...
the entire time. That
pretty funny.
felt amazing.
And I think he weighs like 500 pounds.
500-pound tortoise standing on my toe.
But we couldn't use any of that because the audio was big.
Yeah.
So just be prepared to face a lot of challenges, but it's so worth it. And we always encourage you to follow your dreams and do what you're created to do. So go for it and have fun along the way.
Yes.
You know, the final thing I'd add to that is you have to learn teamwork.
Yeah.
Because it's not just one person.
Right.
It's not just Pierce Fun Camera. It's not just me. It's not just you. There's more to it than
Sure.
that. You have to, we come together and we all decide on what we're going to say on camera. We all do the uncool things like setting up and then all the tearing down and things like that. So it does go down to a lot of teamwork
Yeah.
too.
It does.
But it's so much fun. Okay, guys, we got more questions from Justin.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Thanks for all of these, Justin. We appreciate it. What is your dad's favorite animal?
Bird.
And what do we call that?
Bob. Bird of prey.
A bop. A bird of prey.
So easy.
Hey, look, I enjoyed it. You know, I did not realize. I thought I was a total snake guy.
Yeah.
And then we filmed with the red-tailed hawk. And I just remember looking at Tiger, that red-tailed hawk, and thinking, that's cool.
I know.
I want one.
I know.
And then
More than
going
that, you
and
want
working
an
with
African
Challenger.
gray.
Yeah, and then Einstein too. But Einstein's not a bird of prey, but there's something about that falcon that was just like, whoa. It was like looking at a really cool car. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's just, there's something that was so exciting about it.
Yeah, we found out you had a deep love for the bops
Yes.
this season. Okay, we've got another question. Which is a better first snake, Pierce, a ball python or corn snake?
Well, that can go either way. I mean, it just depends on how much you're willing to spend on the snake. A ball python's going to be a little bit more expensive because you have to set up the heat for it. And they usually require a bigger environment and cage. Corn snakes, on the other hand, they are a bit cheaper, but they aren't as hardy, and they do make quite a lot of frequent trips to the bathroom.
They do. I was just about to say, when we travel for live presentations, we have decided to stop taking the corn snakes because they poop a lot.
Oh,
a lot more than a ball python.
oh my gosh,
They
yes,
could
they do.
fertilize a farm.
They
They
could.
really,
yes.
really do. So if you don't mind cleaning up a lot of mess on a regular basis, the corn snakes might
Whatever
be the way
you
to go.
do,
But
don't house more than 2 corn snakes together, or else you'll be cleaning out poop every single day.
yeah, we had 4 together at one point.
We have
and
6
6
in one cage.
Okay.
Yeah, that's staggering.
That's a lot. Okay, what is your favorite animal other than snakes? Do you know?
Lizards? Turtles? I mean,
Snake
anything-
with legs, right?
anything.
Reptile?
Yeah, no, nothing outside of reptiles, really.
You do love, yeah, because you love your Pac-Man frog, you love a tortoise. You're right,
Yes.
snakes, lizards, turtles, all things herpetological.
Yes.
And what is the coolest thing Goliath has ever done?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. What have you done that's cool?
I could answer that probably from a parent's point of view. I think it's just cool that he is your best friend and he does like this. This is all the time with Pierce. I mean, whether he's doing school because, he's homeschooled, Goliath is with him. They are best friends. I think that's pretty
The
cool.
coolest thing that he's probably ever done is anytime I let somebody else hold him, he immediately just becomes stiff as a statue. He just knows to behave well whenever somebody else is holding him. It's just amazing to watch how well behaved he is whenever I let somebody else handle him.
He's a sweetheart.
All right, so I'm going to let you answer this one. This one comes from John. Why do snakes and other animals seem to become calm and docile when they are placed in small containers and bags?
Well, John, one of the interesting things that we learned about snakes is that they actually like to be in small areas. And the first time I ever noticed that actually was when I purchased an animal at a reptile show. And it was this baby Burmese python, and it came in this little Tupperware container, and I felt sorry for it.
Right.
So I came home and I put together the Taj Mahal of, habitats for her. I mean, I could have almost lost this animal in there. And I put her in there, and literally she started hissing
Crying,
so to speak, snake crying. But that's their way, is they hiss and hiss and hiss. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So I picked her up with a snake hook because she was flipping out. And I put her in the Tupperware thing, and immediately she became quiet. And really, if you watch out in the wild and things like that, snakes go down inside of holes. And the reason I think they like to be in a small enclosed place is because they don't have any other way of defending other than biting. So they like that feeling of being inside of something where they can't be attacked.
Yes.
We also learned from experts when we were training with them that when they're traveling and they put them in the pillowcases or those special snake
calms
bags,
them down.
it does calm them down, because if you try to put them like in a clear enclosure and put them in the car, there's so much going on.
It's
new
too much
smells,
stimulation.
So much stimulation, and they're territorial. Remember too. So again, like Scaly Dad was saying, we had the big enclosures and big terrariums when we first started, but we learned that they're territorial, so they would just go around and around. So a smaller area makes them feel safer.
And it's better when you're traveling with them to put them in something soft like a bag, because otherwise, colubrids especially, they will probe and they'll rub their nose scales raw. When we go to reptile shows, we'd see ones with bright red noses because they had done nothing but probe their cage.
Right.
So if you put them in a bag, that prevents them from doing that.
Just make sure you tie it tight.
Yes.
And really what's interesting in all of this is you don't think about stress in animals. We think about it because you go to a job or something like that and you became stressed out.
Right.
But animals, it's interesting because you can put them in an environment that stresses them. And there are certain animals that we filmed with that we found out were very susceptible to stress. In fact, a coral snake, interestingly, if you overstress it, you can actually kill it. And we found that out when we filmed with Jack Vicente.
That's right.
Okay, here's one for you guys. What are some funny state and federal laws on animal ownership?
Wow.
I think learning about the ferrets was very interesting.
Yes.
When we filmed with George and Fred,
Yes.
the little ferrets
funny.
this season, and you learned an interesting law in New York City. They were banned.
In the 1990s, they were banned until just up until this year, 2014.
Yeah.
There was actually a law that said you could not own a ferret in the state of New York, or at least in the city of New York.
That's pretty weird, isn't it, Pierce?
Yeah, did a ferret chew through the mayor's shoe or something?
I don't know, but it was
Something
interesting
bad.
in reading that too, was that a lot of people ignored that law. And they would keep ferrets and things like that. So there's kind of a ferret underground. I thought that was kind of fun.
Another, a couple of other ones is you can't take a baby turtle out of the wild. They, after a certain size you can, but they get really emotional if you take a baby turtle. Also, you can't sell snakes native to the state that you are in at any show in that state. Like corn snakes, you can't sell a native corn snake in South Carolina. They don't like that.
Well, a couple of other ones that I thought was interesting was about our ginger. We have a Burmese python, and because they're considered an invasive species in the state of Florida, there's a federal law called the Lacey Act that has her banned from going over state lines without a license. And at a minimum, the fine is $10,000 if you actually take her over state lines. And that was kind of a weird one for me.
It is. I think it's just so important to know your state laws and even your county laws, because, for example, the county we live in, we can can own more species
Yes.
versus 1 mile over in the next county, they've got much stricter laws
Yep.
and rules.
And if you go
So it's-
over our state line into the next state line, there's actually counties that don't allow you to own a venomous animal at all.
Right.
And that can be bad because sometimes you can buy an animal at a reptile show somewhere in another state and and unwittingly drive over several state lines and violate federal law. And something as benign as a speeding ticket or rolling through a stop sign suddenly can find yourself in federal prison with a $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000 fine.
Right. So I think it's really important to educate yourself.
Yes.
And on all the laws and the animal that you're purchasing.
And one of the final thing too is sometimes a law may seem crazy, but it's actually a great law. And one of them is that a lot of the animals that we have filmed with are protected. For example, we live in South Carolina where the timber rattlesnake is protected. And every once in a while, we'll see unfortunate pictures on Facebook, or somebody will say, "Hey, I dispatched this snake in my yard," or whatever.
Right.
And the problem is if you kill a federally protected animal, then somebody who's going to knock at your door may not be somebody you want to come.
No.
That's why I think it's great through this show that we're getting to teach kids and parents, families together about, how to care for animals properly, educate yourself. Yeah. It's a really positive way to educate others.
And part of that is because when you're ignorant about something like a snake, it can be very intimidating. But I think when people realize that these animals play an important part in our ecology, when we speak at public schools, for example, a lot of times I tell people I'd rather have a snake in my yard than feral rats.
Yeah.
And that's because early along the Black Plagues, for example, were started by rats, and by having snakes in the region to be able to kill those rats, we were able to control diseases better. So every little animal in an ecology plays an important part.
Yes, they do. Okay, there is a cat in our set.
As soon as I saw
I'm waiting for her to burn her nose.
I heard her coming in with her little Tinkerbell necklace.
Sasha,
you're
over
filming. Come here.
come here. Squish.
No, you're going to get hair everywhere. I was waiting for you to finish. I was sort of giggling. Okay, guys, we got another question. And this one is, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about animals? And I know for me that when we filmed season 1, when we tracked Utsanati and Zoe, the rattlesnakes, up in North Carolina with our friend Steve O'Neill, I was actually terrified for Pierce to do that because we had never been around venomous animals. No. And all of the other programs I had seen on TV were so sensationalized that I literally thought this rattlesnake could jump out 6 feet at his face and kill my child right in front of me. And that really scared me. And Steve said, you know what? The most he could strike is about 6 inches, if that. And interestingly, he didn't strike at all.
No.
Neither one of those rattlesnakes did. So I think sometimes you've got to be so careful about what you watch on TV because so much footage is over sensationalized. And you want to make sure that it's true because these animals aren't aggressive by nature. They're aggressive when they're threatened, or they're protecting their territory, or they're attacked.
Yes,
Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep. What do you think about other misconceptions about animals?
Well, I mean, basically you nailed it. People love to really just dramatize snakes and how they act. They'll often put mice over the cameras so that they'll strike at the cameras. They'll put snakes in freezers so that they'll be cold when it's time to film. That way they'll be less sluggish, and that's how some of them might get away with handling venomous.
Exactly. Another thing, too, that people have said that, again, through some of our social media pages where we showed the personalities and the fun sides of animals, the loving side, a lot of people had not realized how loving these animals can be and how they sense. But, snakes, they smell with their tongue. So Goliath knows your scent.
Yes.
Yeah.
He knows you and loves you.
He does.
Well, I think, the two biggest misconceptions that I see a lot is, number one, that animals aren't very smart.
Right.
No.
And I vehemently disagree with that.
Oh, totally.
After tracking rattlesnakes and literally seeing 4 to 5 years of travel where they would literally be 3 meters away. And Steve O'Neill actually had showed us that, where he's like, I can go back to any part and I can figure out exactly what a snake is within a few feet. That's pretty smart. And then also, I think that people think that these animals, like you said, are devoid of any form of emotion. And I always tell people, if it's scared enough to bite you, then it has enough sense to know that you don't mean it any harm.
Right.
And maybe it doesn't love the way a human being does, but it still has an affection for its keeper.
Definitely.
And I'll tell you, when we do shows and I'll let somebody hold Cupcake, I notice the first thing she does is put her head towards me, and she'll want a contact with me. And it's really interesting. And that tells me that there's something about these animals that we don't necessarily give them
I
credit
agree.
for.
Yes.
I agree. And I would really encourage you to watch the whole Scaly Adventures Season 1 and Season 2, set your DVR for the series, because we have so many examples of that. When you were talking about that, Bono came to mind.
Yeah.
We filmed with him. He's a canine partner of Officer Mark Bishop down in Marietta, Georgia Police Department. And we filmed with a canine unit, and that was episode 15, which was the first episode of this season. It was amazing to watch how smart he was. Going back to how smart you talking about the animals, he tracked Pierce after never smelling him before.
Yes.
And also the bond between the partnership, the love that they have.
Yeah.
And then we filmed up at Tiger World with Leah, and she's got pictures on her website and stuff of her hugging these huge tigers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And even Al Cesare with Challenger, the eagle, they have this special bond. Definitely watch the whole season, because you'll see such a variety. We filmed with such a variety this season
Absolutely.
too.
We did, yes.
It's interesting because you always have to respect any animal for what it is as an animal. Even when I hold my most beloved snake, I know that I run the risk of being bit. But at the same time, it's just always interesting and amazing to me to be able to see these animals and see their personalities. And really, that's what I love about filming Scaly Adventures, is teaching other people
Yes.
What about you, Pierce? What's your favorite thing about filming Scaly Adventures?
Animals. Everything. I mean, everything about it is just so much fun.
This is your life, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, guys, we had a question about what was the sweetest moment in
Okay.
Scaly Adventures Season 2, and I have to say, it was you swimming with Spike.
That was fun.
That scene was very special to us as a family as well, because when we got Spike, it took us about 6 months before Pierce could even hold him. He was very angry and tried to bite Pierce, or did bite Pierce, and whipped him with his tail.
Yes.
There was no chance we would have had any moments like that when we first got Spike.
No.
But you've worked with him. You guys have a close bond. So
Yes.
when we went to that episode, Take a Walk on the Wet Side, we went to the park, and Pierce and Spike swim together. And it's really cool. And I love the music, the Bone
Yeah.
Prophet music that
Yes.
you paired with that. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a tender moment, and it was cool because we really didn't even intend to film it.
Right.
I was
No,
out
we
there
didn't.
actually just practicing with some of the video equipment I had, and I thought, well, this would be kind of a cool thing. And then I started looking at the video. I was like, wow, this really demonstrates such a close bond between Pierce and Spike.
Yes,
I
it
know.
did.
You love Spike, don't
He's
you?
a sweetheart.
I know. Okay, guys, so we have a lot of fun on our social media sites for Scaly Adventures. One of those places is Instagram. We post fun pictures
do.
of our animals and
Yes.
fun things that are happening in the Scaly Crew's household. And Miguel asked a question, how does Scrappy reach the pedals? That was because we posted a picture of Scrappy up on the steering wheel driving.
Yes, our bearded dragon.
He's a bearded dragon. And he says, how does he reach the pedals?
Well, that's because we have two other beardies who are operating the stop and go pedals.
So that was just for fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Spike was giving him a boost up.
There you go. His booster seat.
Yes.
But you know, if you haven't been to our Instagram page, it is a cool place to check out, because I think you get a great chance to see behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Some of the
all
stuff that
kinds
we
of fun animal
see every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very neat.